Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of the Players NIL podcast. I have an interesting guest today, and I'm excited to welcome Tim Flynn in from Data Molly, named after his wife. I love that name. Tim, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, Tim, at the Players NIL, we're all about using athletics to better our lives and to better the lives of the people around us. And so the theme of our industry and our particular company is sports, athletes, experiences. So although we're going to talk about cybersecurity and the great company that you're building to help protect student athletes, it's my obligation to my audience to talk about sports and athletics. And those are two different words. So sports is the fandom part. It's, who did you go to the first game with? Who was your team? You were raised in New England. Perhaps you're a Red Sox fan. I don't know. But then athletics would be, did you participate? And if you didn't, that's fine. You could be a sports fan. And then how does that relationship with sports, how did it get us to where we are today? So let's start off with the first question, and that is sports. Tell me about your childhood and your exposure to sports.
Well, I did grow up in Massachusetts, so sports were very integral. It was a way for our family to get together, whether it was the Red Sox, the Bruins, the Celtics. And at that time, the Patriots were not very good, but we still watched them. So it was just a way we just got together as a family. It was a talking point throughout the house, who was, doing well, who was not doing well. And then, with my friends, I was very fortunate to grow up in an area where there was a lot of kids the same age. So if we were not in school and we didn't have practice or we didn't have a game, we were all getting together playing some sort of outdoor activity, whether it's wiffle ball, street hockey, soccer, football. We were doing some sort of athletic activity.
Stitches and broken bones come with that?
A few. There were some older kids that loved to take out their aggression on some of the younger guys. So
love that.
It was all fun now.
Right. Did you ever participate scholastically? Were you ever an athlete?
I did up until as a kid and up until through high school, and that's where I peaked. I was still waiting for that growth spurt to make me 6'6", 250, but never happened. So I realized the need to focus on other areas.
You and me both, brother. You and me both. So, but you're a sports fan, right? You still follow sports today? Who are your teams?
I'm still a Boston sports fan. I think my family thinks that I was the jinx because I left. I moved out of New England, and now everybody's winning. So, but still a diehard Boston sports fan.
I had this conversation with someone recently, and I said, today's youth generation, they don't know losing. All they know is winning in Boston.
A friend of mine, his kids, with the parade, the Red Sox had that streak, obviously the Patriots, and they're like, do we have a parade every year? And I'm like, they don't remember 86 or 85 with the Bears.
Yeah, cool. So you're a passionate sports fan. You're participated. You've had a great career in technology in terms of cybersecurity. That's what we want to talk about today. So tell us a little bit about how Data Molly came about, and tell us what you do.
Yes. So I've been in the technology industry for about 25 years, and I've held a variety of roles from technical to leadership in consulting. And when I started my own company, I really wanted to focus on industries that were traditionally underserved, to help them better understand technology risks and how it can negatively impact their business. So when the NIL industry came about, started doing some research on it, traditionally from a fan perspective, but I saw some glaring gaps that I wanted to help be an advocate for and bring attention to.
Tell me about cybersecurity. What does it mean? I think we hear people talk about it mostly in the government, around the election and all those type of things. But to the average everyday person, and specifically to student athletes, we'll get into that. But tell me what cybersecurity means to you.
Cybersecurity is how you protect, yourself as an individual while using any online platform. Technology has advanced where we're using, platforms, whether it be, to connect with friends in different parts of the country, or, order groceries, order food, transportation. So technology has evolved into every aspect of our daily life. With cybersecurity, it's protecting yourself so you're not exposed to malicious activity that could, provide a variety of ways of negative impact to yourself, individually and financially.
So we're upgrading the internet here in my community. And what's the difference between a secure network and an unsecure network?
Well, a secure network has, has certain parameters to protect the traffic that goes through that network. Unsecure provides easier access to threat actors, so it's easier for them to infiltrate and attack the users that are using that network.
Okay.
But in addition, just because something is secure, that's one of the big messages I have to my customers. You have to protect yourself and have your own security posture. You can't rely on third parties.
Got it. So through the first 18, 19 months of name, image, and likeness, NIL, it's become the dominant transaction between student athlete and brand has been the use of social media. So I laugh about this, but the Kardashians changed the world, whether we like it or not. Influencers are a big part of commerce, marketing, brand development, and all of the things that big businesses are trying to connect with audiences. Student athletes now are becoming influencers fast and furious. Why are student athletes in particular vulnerable?
There are several reasons. In general, cyber attacks have expanded where traditionally they were attacking companies directly. The big brands, the big industries, they're still doing that, but what they're doing is realizing that the individual in the consumer end provides a larger target or victim pool. Also, it's allowing them to, within that larger target pool, there's most likely a subset that is not following, the appropriate security protocols. It's very easy for them to expose those individuals. If you look at TikTok, which is a tool that a lot of athletes use, depending on what information you read, there's about 80 million daily users in the US alone. 60% of those users are between 16 and 24. So how many of those users do you think have thinking about security when they're on those platforms? So those platforms, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, those provide a larger target audience for those cyber criminals, and also they realize within that audience there's going to be a large portion of them that they can expose because they're not implementing the appropriate security procedures.
I saw recently that I think it was the University of Texas in Austin banned TikTok access through their server. So I guess that just means the kids are going to use their cell phones without connected to the server. But
just add, because this is something to keep on the radar. There is a lot of talk specifically about TikTok because it's Chinese owned. And because of that, the Chinese government can access that data at any point. So a lot of state entities, government entities are banning it on, those devices.
Interesting. Okay, so we know what cybersecurity is. We know why influencers are vulnerable because they're not protecting themselves. But what does vulnerable mean? What is the risk? Why should a student athlete care about this?
There's a variety of reasons, and I'll just add to a point on with some of these social platforms. You would believe that with the popularity and the use of these platforms, that the owners would take an approach of being more secure. Unfortunately, they've taken a step back and they've chosen to be, money driven versus security driven. So there, Twitter has already implemented it, where you can pay a low fee, subscription fee, $8.99 or $10.99, and you get a validated account. How that impacts the athlete, for $8.99, $10.99, I can be validated as LeBron James, which there was an increase in account spoofing. So the security procedures in with these platforms are reducing. So it's putting more exposure in. And Meta is going to be implementing the same subscription. So what this does, it provides the athlete a variety of ways that they can be impacted. One, spoofing has increased. So, for the higher profile athletes, they're more susceptible to someone spoofing their account. Someone did it with Arch Manning recently, where they spoofed his LinkedIn account, made some posts. They asked him about it. He said, I've never even heard of LinkedIn. So the higher profile athletes are going to have to worry about being spoofed, that, people are going to, use it to entice victims, leveraging their brand. But your traditional student athletes are still impacted, because the spoofing expands to people are, sponsors, coaches, university officials. Everybody is susceptible to spoofing. And if they have an understanding through certain breaches that you're particular to a certain brand, a certain company, a certain restaurant, they'll use that information to create what they call spear phishing attacks that are specific to you. So the more vulnerable you are, the more your credentials have been exposed, the more information they have on you, especially when they can just look at your Instagram account, your Facebook account, and get an understanding of who you are as a person, where you like to hang out, what your preferred brands are, and they can really build a specific targeted cyber attack specific to you.
So to define spoofing, it's the creation of an unauthorized duplicate account.
It's impersonation. It's a fancy technical word for impersonation.
Yep. Yeah, no, I get it, and so much of an athlete's brand is out there in the public these days and social. So, we don't want someone saying things that we're not authorized. We don't want someone representing us that isn't representative of us, or authorized to be our representative. And the cleanup part of that, and the pullback on that, I'm sure, is difficult, because there probably are some athletes, unfortunately, that have claimed to have been spoofed that may not have been. They just, nothing good happens after midnight kind of thing, right?
Yep.
So, but the average athlete who we deal with, is vulnerable from spoofing. It could be towards fans, right? It could be towards their coaches. It could be towards the opponent, right? I know coaches are really afraid of athletes stirring up trouble and creating what we used to call bulletin board material, right?
Yeah, exactly. And, with the automation and the tool sets that these cyber criminals have, everybody's susceptible. So, the mindset of, the athlete's not high profile, they're not in one of the money generating sports, that there's additional risks there, but the average student athlete has just as much risk as anybody else.
Okay. All right. So in Hollywood, they call it the money shot. This is, where the biggest part of the movie gets shot. What can they do? This is where data Molly comes in. I'm a student athlete with X number of followers. I want to protect myself. What can I do?
The first thing is basic. Be aware. It's surprising that a majority of people are just not aware that these risks are out there. And unfortunately, they find out after they've been victimized and their accounts have been scrubbed. They go to their bank account and there's no money in it, because they've been a victim of a cyber attack. They weren't paying attention, and that's how they find out. So first and foremost, be aware, because if you're aware, you're going to take that mindset that I am at risk, and you're going to start to automatically, implement some, security procedures just by human nature, just by being aware. Secondly, have the conversation with, if you're working with a mentor, an organization, have the cybersecurity conversation, because you can have, a business, a brand without brand security. So have the conversation, have the discussion, put a plan together. There's numerous free tools and low cost tools that you can put together a security posture that will help reduce your exposure. There's very affordable solutions. The benefit with the increase in cyber attacks, that there are solutions that are geared towards the individual at a very relatively low cost. So there's really no reason to not have a security procedure implemented into your brand strategy.
And how does that work? What, in practical terms, I'm a user of social media. I employ one of these programs, Data Molly. I pay a monthly fee, but how does it interact with my phone? How does it interact with my social media accounts?
So there's a variety of ways that it's going to help you. The first, it's going to proactively monitor breaches. So that's the first line of defense, is being aware in near real time when there is a breach, so that, one, you can understand if your credentials were potentially exposed and you can react. Because having your username is one thing, having your username and password is a completely different risk. So it's going to make you aware real time where the breaches are. In addition, you're going to have certain proactive tools that you'll know when you go on a website that it's a legit website, it's not a spoofing website. It'll proactively block emails that are spoofing emails. We're seeing a significant increase in, especially in the athletic world, of, people spoofing sponsors, spoofing coaches, admin, things of that nature. So it eliminates the spoofing, so you can assure when you're opening an email, it's from a trusted source. It's also scanning any attachments to make sure that it's not loaded with a virus or ransomware. So you're really proactively protecting your system, proactively protecting your credentials, so that you have a secure security posture on your day-to-day.
Great. I love that answer. Okay, we're down to the last minute or so here. So I need 3 sound bites. Tell me what my takeaways are from this conversation. And if you had a chance to speak to my audience directly, what would you tell them, whether what is an action item, something to be aware of, some of the simple things they can do to protect themselves? Give me some sound bites, Tim.
Don't be a victim. First, don't be a victim. Be aware and accept the fact that cyber attacks are part of having any sort of presence online. So take the necessary steps, be aware, assume that eventually you're going to be impacted. Just reduce that exposure. Second, have the conversation, talk about it, incorporate it into your brand strategy. I can't tell you how important that is. There's a big disconnect in the industry right now that's really putting the athlete, there's exposure there. So have the conversation. There's a variety of ways that you can help yourself and minimize that exposure. And then last but not least, cybersecurity doesn't have to be expensive. There's a variety of free tools and affordable solutions to help really minimize your risk. Great.
If people want to learn more about your company, where can they find you? What's your website? What's your handles? I assume you have social media handles.
You know what? I do not. And that's
okay.
Yes. My website is www.datamolly.com. You can reach me at tim@datamolly.com. But, I've strategically chosen not to be on Twitter or Facebook or any of the others.
Okay, guess that's a message right there. Well, look, it's a fascinating aspect, one that I'm not up to speed with. I guess I'm of a generation that we never really grew up with this, but I understand the importance, and that's why I had you on as a guest today, because I think our audience needs to understand that these are risks and that there are options out there to protect themselves. You've been a great guest. I wish you nothing but success with your business, and I thank you for being on the podcast today.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.